All right, welcome back to the Productivity Show. I'm super thrilled to have Marmel back on the show. My name is Brooks Duncan. I'm the wearer of many hats at Asian Efficiency, where we help people become more productive in work and at life. I'm one of the co-hosts of the Productivity Show, and really happy to have Marmel, another of the kind of occasional co-hosts of the Productivity Show, back on the show. So welcome, Marmel. How are you?
Thanks, Brooks. Good to be back again. So I'm doing good. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Marmel, and I am the Scrum Master of Asian Efficiency. But if you have access to the show notes, Brooks put in something else.
That's right. All right, we'll keep that one for the TPS Plus members. All right, so we are going to be talking today about how to keep your goals visible. That's something really important at this time of year as we get into towards the end of January. These goals start going by the wayside, so we want to have some way to keep them front and center as we're working through to have that visual cue. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. However, as always, we like to start the podcast with our top 3 resources. These are 3 things that we've been loving lately, or that members of the fellow TPS listeners have been loving lately, or members of our community. So I'll just go through and share that. If you don't mind, Marmel, I've got 3 racked up here. Number 1 is a small mini portable whiteboard. So it's linked to the show notes. All of these will be linked at theproductivityshow.com/336. And the one that I linked to has been really popular with members of our community. It's a small double-sided whiteboard that you can pack up. It's got a carrying handle, and it's, really handy if you don't have the space to have a big whiteboard. Number 2 is a recommendation from William, which is a member of our dojo, and it's a Kershaw Pub carbon fiber multifunction pocket knife. So it's this tiny little pocket knife that folds up, but also has a screwdriver tip, a pry bar, a keychain attachment, a bottle opener, and I think some other stuff as well. It's really small, really light. So for people who like having a little multi-tool with you in their everyday carrier or whatever, that is one that William recommends. And the third is actually a link to a blog post that I wanted to shout out. It's called How to Build Your Tailor-Made GTD Project Management App in Coda. So this is written by another member of our dojo, our online productivity community, named Giacomo, and he wrote this amazing article. According to Medium, it takes 18 minutes to read, so next time you have 18 minutes, give it a read, of how he built his own GTD system tailor-made to what he wanted using Coda. And it's a really good example of the power of some of these no-code solutions, that you can put this stuff together without having to do any coding or scripting or any of that type of stuff. So just wanted to highlight that article by a member of the dojo who is here live listening as we do our live recording. All right, so those are our top 3 resources. As I said, you can access any of them at any time by going to theproductivityshow.com/336. And today we're going to be talking about how to keep your goals visible. So if you've tried to set goals, either annual goals or quarterly goals, and you've tried it in the past, but it hasn't quite worked out, it's kind of like fallen by the wayside, this episode is going to be for you. If you've tried all other goal setting, goal getting tricks, you're going to find a lot of value out of this one. And even if you're a seasoned goal getter, we'll be sharing some different ways that maybe you haven't thought of to keep your goals front and center. So, Marmel, are you ready to get started?
Yep, ready.
All right, so according to the University of Scranton, 92% of people who set New Year's resolutions or New Year's goals never achieve them. I bet the number is even higher, but that's what that study that we found. And Marmel, I know you are an avid gym goer, at least in the pre-COVID days. I don't know about right now. Have you? This is a pretty common theme, so I'm curious if you have experienced it. What tends to happen around the time that this podcast is going to come out, the difference between like the beginning of January and later in January and February? Have you noticed any sort of effect or difference there?
Let's just say at the beginning of January, the CrossFit gym that I go to is full. Like, it's packed with people I've never seen before. And then I don't see them again by February. So they're like, I see them the entire month of January, and then towards the end of the month, and they don't go there as much as often, and then they just disappear into the wild.
Yeah. And if that's been you before, it's certainly been me before. No judgment. We're not like making fun of them or anything like that. It happens to all of us. And there's a lot of reasons why this happens, right? We get busy with life. Maybe we get a little bit of an injury or whatever it happens to be. But a lot of times what happens is we kind of forget why we're doing something. And then we kind of forget about it. We just go back to our regular life. We had the best intentions at the beginning of the year or the beginning of the quarter, but it kind of always falls away. So we wanted to specifically talk about keeping your goals visible because I was rereading a great book by James Clear, which we've talked about a number of times on the podcast. James was on the podcast episode 217. The book is called Atomic Habits, and what he says is visual cues are the greatest catalyst of our behavior. For this reason, a small change in what you can see can lead to a big shift in what you do. And that is so true. At least that's been in my experience and an experience from people we've talked to as well, is just having something visible just makes such a huge difference. Out of all the senses, something about being able to see something just triggers that memory and can help keep us on track. And we all need all the tricks we can get. So we want to have some way to see our goals so we're reminded to take action on our goals. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to share 5 ways to keep your goals visible. So I'm going to roll right into number 1, and I'm curious if you've done this, Marmel, and that is to have a visual cue somewhere. So this is directly related to what James Clear was saying. You want to be reminded every day by what your goals are, and you want it to be by something you can see. And what's going to happen is, even if you don't like consciously stare at it and think that you're reminded of your goals, just seeing it and having it in your field of vision, you're going to start making like little micro decisions that kind of take you in the direction and remind you to stay on track towards your goals. Zig Ziglar, who is a very famous productivity, sales, goal type person, personal development person, always talked about taping jockey shorts ads to underwear ads to his bathroom mirror, so that every time he went into the bathroom, that picture there of a person who looked in the fitness shape that he wanted to get into, he would see it every time he went into the washroom, and then that would just remind him of that fitness goal that he had. So if you have a goal to like save up for something, have maybe a picture of it on your bulletin board. If you have a goal to achieve like a certain promotion or a financial goal, have that written down somewhere that you can see it. I also read this other study by Dominican University that said you're 42% more likely to achieve a goal if you write it down. So yeah, write that goal down, have it visible. Marmel, have you ever done this? Do you have your goal, whatever, or have done it in the past, had it front and center and visible?
Yeah, so before, I think we called it, a vision board of what you want to achieve in your life. And then you realize that, especially when I joined Age Deficiency, that when it comes to goals, you really have to be specific, right? And then you have to have a goal in mind as to when you want to achieve it. So these days, my visual cue is really a whiteboard. Like right now, we're recording a podcast. I can see it on the side, so it's always there. There's always a reminder. So, for example, for this year, despite the craziness of this year, there's one goal that Lloyd and I wanted to reach, and that was to go debt free. And at first it stressed me out having that number on the whiteboard, but by and by, every 15 days, when I get to deduct some amount from my debt free board, I felt so much better until it became 0. So having that goal visible, just pushed the both of us to really just work hard.
Well, first of all, congratulations on meeting that goal. That's super awesome. So you even took it a bit further. Like you didn't have the words debt free written on your whiteboard. You actually had the number that you were going towards and your progress towards it. So that's even better, showing that progress. And yeah, just seeing it all the time. I'm sure sometimes maybe your finger was hovering over the whatever the Philippines equivalent of Amazon is to buy something, and then you see that on the whiteboard, right? And you're like, yeah, maybe not. Yeah. And that's the power of these type of visual goals, is they just they have it front and center, and you start making those decisions that lead to a better outcome towards your goal. I actually have a counter example of an example of how powerful this can be, but from the other side. I had a goal, I think it was last year, I probably even talked about it on the podcast, which is kind of embarrassing, that I wanted to learn guitar. But then we did our big home renovation that I think I talked about on the podcast, and we moved to my mother-in-law's house, and in that whole situation, the guitar ended up getting put in the garage and then in the closet, and it was out of the way. And just not having it in my field of vision, which is what I did have in my office before that, I just didn't do it. Practice fell apart. I didn't have it right there as a visual cue, and then I've just taken it back out of the closet to try to bring that back. And it was the counter example of not having it front and center led to it falling away. So having that visual cue is really, really powerful and important. So that is number one. Have a visual cue somewhere. Kimberly gives a great example. She says, Kimberly, a member who is in our live stream, says, I made my desktop into a collage of what I want from 2021. So it's kind of like a vision board always staring at me. And yeah, that's a great way to do it too. Have those things always looking at you, and a computer desktop is a great way to do it. All right, so number one, have a visual cue somewhere. And number two is have a recurring reminder. Have something in your task manager or your calendar or some sort of alarm to remind you of your goals on a regular basis. This is something that, I mean, Tan's not here, but I know this is something that I know Tan does, is he has a task in his task manager, which is OmniFocus, that reminds him to review his goals every single day. And it actually has a link to the Evernote note where he has his goals written down. For me, I don't do that, but I do something similar where I have a recurring tasks in OmniFocus reminding me to do the things that will take me towards my goal. So I have a daily project and a weekly project in OmniFocus, and then every day or every week, depending on what it is, I will get that reminder to do it, and I'll see it there as read until I do it. How about you, Marmel? Do you have any sort of recurring reminder to do the things that takes you towards your goals?
I actually use OmniFocus as well, so I have my reminders there, but Lloyd and our store clerk doesn't have OmniFocus, so I actually added into our shared calendar. So for example, I need to review some goals and go through inventory, and they get reminded that I'm going to do that. So they already have this idea that there's a big possibility that come Monday, there will be some changes to how we do stuff in the store that I'm talking about is my side hustle together with Lloyd.
Is that a physical store or online
Yes.
store or physical store? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Next time I'm in town, I'll have to visit it. Right on. Well, yeah, that's a perfect, and that's actually, I'm really glad you brought up that example, because especially when you're dealing, when you have goals that interface and rely on other people, you kind of have to do things in a way that will actually work for them. You know, you can have your goal reminders in OmniFocus, which works for you, but you're not going to like force these other people to use OmniFocus. Same with me. Like my wife and I have a family shared digital calendar, but for the things that will involve our kids, we can never get them to look at Google Calendar. So we have it up on a whiteboard at the bottom of the stairs. And one of our goals once the quarantine happened and soccer practices kind of fell away and school was less active, is we had a goal for them to do what we call DPA, or daily physical activity. So we actually have a 3M restickable whiteboard thing that friend of the show Mike Vardy gave me from the Productivityist. He gave me that we have it at the top of our stairs, and it has their daily physical activity goals up there at the top of the stairs, and they see it and they're reminded of it every time. So that's a great point. Related to that is tip number 3, which is use a whiteboard. So you have already talked about how you use a whiteboard for your goals to keep it visible. And like we said earlier, there's a bunch of different ways that you can use a whiteboard to be reminded of your goals. So you can have, do you know about how big, is yours like a big one, Marmel? Is it a small portable one? What do you have for a whiteboard?
I actually have two. I have a small one. I think it's about 1 foot by 1 foot, so 12 inches by 12 inches, and another one that's like 4 times is bigger than that. So
Yeah,
and
yeah. The nice thing about a whiteboard too is because you can't, there's such little friction in updating it, in writing on it. If you got to get a piece of paper and write on it, and then tack it up to a cork board, which is great if that's all you have, that's great. It's just a few extra steps rather than just grabbing a pen and scribbling on a whiteboard, and it makes it so easy to erase. So I'm a big fan of whiteboards, super friction free. You already gave the dead example. For the bigger whiteboard, what sorts of things do you use for the smaller one?
the smaller one are for like things that are short term. Like I have a goal for the week that I want to reach. Like I want to go to the gym 3 times, so it's there. But for the bigger whiteboard is for my longer term goals.
Yeah, I used to have a whiteboard here in my office when we had the aforementioned reno. For some reason, the jackals who did our reno like literally ripped it off the off the wall. So for those watching the live stream, you might be able to see actually the the holes in my wall that are still there from them doing that. I haven't got around to fixing it yet, and I haven't replaced it yet, and I am really missing it. So one of my goals for the end of January, once this podcast goes out, is to figure out my whiteboard situation, because I am really, really missing having one. And maybe I don't put a big one back on the wall again. Maybe I go with the portable one that I mentioned earlier, because I know that one has been really popular. But I definitely want to do something. It's been really effective for the family stuff, but that's upstairs. But I'm missing having one in my office. All right, so that's tip number 3, use a whiteboard. Tip number 4 is one we already touched on a little bit. Kimberly says that it's something that she does that has been really effective, and that is to set your computer or your device or your browser wallpaper. So actually have your goals there on your computer desktop, or maybe your phone desktop, or even when you open a new browser tab. There's lots of different ways to do this. I used to always see people with really cool looking goals on their desktop, or like really nicely designed. And I always used to think, oh man, it's too bad I have no design skills whatsoever, because there's no way I could do that. But nowadays, which probably was true way back in the day, but now doing something like this is so easy. So if you want to do it on your browser, we've talked about this tool on the podcast before. There's a browser plugin called Momentum, and it's for Chrome, it's for Firefox, or it's for Edge. Unfortunately, I don't believe it's for Safari. But what it does is you can install it, and every time you open a new window or a new browser tab, it is this really nice photography on it, and then it has a box on it that says what are you doing today, and you can have tasks and stuff like that. It's got a bunch of different features, but the thing I really like about it is that box front and center that says what should you be doing today, basically. And so if you actually use that box, it's a great way to be reminded of your goals every single time you open up a browser tab to go on Amazon, or go on New York Times, or go on whatever your time waster of choice is. It can be really, really powerful to be reminded what you should be doing every time you open up a browser tab. So that's what I personally do. Marmel, do you use Momentum?
I love Momentum. Like I actually purchased the pro version during I think it was a Black Friday sale. I still haven't delved into the features, but I do love the what is your main focus for today blurb that they ask you. So in Asian Efficiency, we during our daily huddle, we actually share what our top priority for the day is. Right, so that's the thing that I always add in, so that every time I open a browser, I'm reminded that, hey, Marmel, you should be doing this because it is your top priority, and you told the team that this is going to be something that you'll be finishing today.
Yep. And that is the sort of thing that this is really powerful for. So I actually don't have the pro version. I probably should, since I recommend it so often and I use it so often. So I should look into that. So that's the browser. But what about your computer or your phone? I mean, if you have Photoshop skills or something like that, that's really great. I personally do not. However, there's a great site called canva.com, Canva.com, and we'll have links to that in the show notes. And what it allows you to do is really quickly and easy make really nice looking graphics for any type, whether it's stuff for your website, stuff for ads, stuff for invitations, like so many different examples. But they do have computer or device wallpaper templates as well, and some of them are just set up perfectly for putting your goals on it. So you can have a nice picture of the beach on your on your computer desktop with, you know, my goal is, or my goals are ... You can have that there, and you don't need any design skills. You just make it, download it, and save it to your computer or your phone or iPad, and yeah, you've got a really nice goal template right there. So Canva.com is a really easy way to do that. Are you a Canva user, Marmel? Have you used it before?
Yeah, I actually use Canva. It's basically the Photoshop for someone who doesn't know Photoshop. Because it's like Photoshop for dummy stuff, like 101. So that's what because they have a lot of templates that you can use, and basically you just replace what's already there, and it's already pretty fine. It's
Yeah.
pretty easy.
And even if you know how to use Photoshop, sometimes you just don't want the hassle. Sometimes it's a little much for doing something simple. So if you can just go
Mm.
into Canva, whip out a quick template, and then download it, you're good to go. You don't need to be messing around with masks and filters. And you can tell I don't really
True.
know what I'm talking about with Photoshop.
You should
Famously
tell
on
Marie.
famously on the AE team, I keep saying I want to learn Photoshop, but I am not. I've not managed to do it yet, but I don't need to because there's Canva, so that's why. Kimberly, we mentioned earlier, created that 2021 vision board on her computer desktop, and she just shared in the chat that Canva is what she used it with. I didn't even know that when I shared the tip. So yeah, it's a really, really powerful and easy tool to use for this sort of thing. All right, so that's number 4. Set your computer, device, or browser wallpaper. Tip number 5 is kind of an all-encompassing tip that will help you really stay on track with your goals. And there's been an interesting chat in the live stream about this. And tip number 5 is to repeat and repeat and repeat. Just seeing your goals is really, really powerful. And that, even just doing that, even having that visual cue, will make a big difference for you achieving your goals and staying on track with your goals. But if you really want to take it up a level, you want to be repeating those goals all the time. So some people physically rewrite their goals every day. I guess they saw that stat that I mentioned earlier about writing your goals down makes it 42% more likely that you'll achieve it. So they decide to do it every single day. And just that act of writing it every single day, some people, I don't personally do this, but some people find that really, really powerful. What we do for us at Asian Efficiency, actually, Marmel, since you're the Scrum Master, maybe you can take us through some of the ways that we are use this concept of repeating goals in the company so that we're all staying on track.
Repeating goals. Okay, so um, we have what we call the our quarterly goals, right? So every what do you call this? Every day during our huddle, we actually share with the team where we are with our goals. So, for example, our goal for the quarter is, like for this quarter, one of our goal was to achieve 90% with SEMrush, like with SEO. So every day we mention that, okay, for today, this is our score. We are at 60% and our goal is 90%. So every day we do that. So we repeat that every single day until we actually reach that goal of 90%. So as a team, we keep on working on it. So we fix whatever SEO issues we have. I think for how many sprints? Like 3 sprints so that we can reach that goal. And we finally did. Congratulations, Brooks.
It was a team effort. But yeah, but that's a great example. We had that goal front and center, and we talked about it every single day. And even for beyond that, we start every weekly meeting we have and every sprint meeting we have talking about where we are with our quarterly goals. And we even have this dashboard that everybody has in our tool called Confluence. We have a sidebar on that dashboard that also shows where we are in relation to our quarterly goals. And so the reason we do all of this, it might seem like overkill to be talking about it every weekly meeting and every sprint meeting and seeing it every time you start up your dashboard. Like, it kind of seems like overkill, I guess. But what happens is just having it front and center all the time, it just aligns your priorities. When I'm going back to that SEM Rush goal that Marmel was talking about, if I have some time, I will go in and just start fixing some issues. And if that wasn't front and center all the time, I might not do that. I might work on something else. But because we have our goal, and because it's visible, and more importantly, because we repeat it over and over and over again, that's what keeps everybody making those decisions to go back on track. Marmel, do you have any other examples of repeating goals that you've seen, or that's worked for you, or maybe we've done at AE?
One thing that we do every single sprint is, having a Kaizen issue in our board, right? So Kaizen meaning making small incremental changes every single day. So because of that, we were able to improve our processes every single sprint, because every single sprint we would always have a Kaizen issue. So we repeat that every single sprint. So that has improved a lot of our processes. We've discovered newer ways to do things to make things better. And it's one of my favorite core values for Asian efficiency too.
There's been an interesting discussion in the live stream about this topic, about repeating reminders and repeating your goals and just being constantly reminded of them. And some of the members brought up a great point. So Kimberly was mentioning, she was wondering if she should put check my goals as a daily task in her habit tracker, which is Habitica. And there's a good description after that of when is too often. And it's basically true that Rob says this, that the decision and the frequency for how often to do that really does depend on the person. For some people, they want to be reminded of it every single day. And that is something they want to have front and center and make a conscious decision to be reminded every single day. For other people, that might seem like a bit much, so weekly might be better. And there isn't a right answer. There isn't, it's not like if you do it daily, you will achieve your goals, and if you do it weekly, you won't. It really depends on the person, the frequency for which you should do that. The key, though, however often you do it, the key is to have that repetition in some way, so that you're constantly going back and reviewing those goals. Otherwise, what's going to happen is you will set the goals at the beginning of the year. You'll be really, really excited about them. You'll start taking action, but if they're not front and center, and if you're not repeating them, they're just going to slide away. And this episode is at the end of January 2021, and we know a lot of us are in danger of this happening around this time. So we want to make sure that does not happen in February and beyond. Any final words on keeping your goals visible, Marmel?
Aside from we were talking about, like, when do you want it to be reminded? I'm actually part of the group of people who wants to be reminded daily, but by myself. I don't want to be reminded by somebody else, like Lloyd, for example. If he reminds me of my goals every day, then I feel demotivated. But so it has to be me to remind myself every day. Like for example, it could be a task in if I set up a reminder in my phone, it has to be something that I created for myself and not somebody else. So I'm okay with that, being reminded every single day.
Fun fact on that topic is a tool that I think not a lot of people use, or not as many as I think should, who are Slack users. Slack has a great reminder feature built in. We use it a lot at AE, and that can be a great way also for just being reminded of something, and no one else has to see it. It can just go straight to you. You can remind yourself every day or every week or at a certain time to be working on something. And that can be a great tool as well, especially since usually you're going to set these to happen during the workday, so you're not getting distracted by them outside of work. And you have that built right into Slack. You don't need to download special software. So if you're already a Slack user, definitely look into that. I had a Slack reminder half typed in to bombard Marmel about her goals, but she just said that she doesn't want other people to remind her. So I will delete it right now. All right. So that is our 5 tips to keeping your goals visible. Number 1 was to have a visible cue somewhere. Number 2, have a recurring reminder that keeps reminding you of your goals. Number 3 is to use a whiteboard, whether it's a big one on your wall or a small portable one, whatever works for your space. Number 4 is to set your computer, device, or browser wallpaper to have your goals front and center. And number 5 is to repeat, repeat, repeat. However you want to do it, whether it's rewriting your goals, whether it's having a dashboard, whether it's a Slack reminder, however you want to do it, have those goals repeated and you'll keep them front and center. So what we recommend that you do as an action item is to pick at least one way to do this for 2021 or for this upcoming quarter. Pick one way to keep your goals visible and make it happen. Implement that Slack reminder, create that Canva wallpaper, however you want to do it. Now's the time to take action so that you can stay solid with your goals throughout the rest of this quarter and the rest of this year. If you want to see show notes, go to theproductivityshow.com/336. Everything we talk about is linked to there. And if you would like a ad-free and 1 week early version of the podcast with some other great bonuses, check out TPS Plus, which is our premium version of the podcast. You can go to theproductivityshow.com/plus. Thank you so much, Marmel, for being here. And thank you so much, everybody, for listening.